Hello everyone, hello, welcome in. Hi for me, hi Deco.
Howdy, y'all.
Alright, opening time. Hi Seko. Welcome travelers to the Worldbuilders Lantern, where ideas spark, worlds ignite, and every tale lights the way. I'm Alfix and I'm joined by my co-host, Kitsune Noble, and we'll be guiding you all through myths, maps, monsters, and mysteries. Each week, we gather around the flame to craft stories, build worlds, and share our secrets of storytelling, from Dungeons and Dragons to original worlds beyond the veil. So grab your journal, light your lantern, and join us at the edge of imagination. The flame is lit, and the worlds are waiting.
Ooh,
And
that one was pretty good.
thank you. I think the first thing I want to start talking about today, hierarchy, is oh, get a good rest, Artie. My biggest thing was so this was kind of like a talk from at the end of our last D&D session. Where do you find a good middle ground between having an open sandbox world while also having an intriguing story? Like keeping a consistent story throughout a session, or like a campaign, basically.
I will say that asks a lot. It's not undoable, but it's definitely difficult. Um, so it's up in the air if you should be like trying to strive for this rather than one or the other. Have you ever played Tomb of Annihilation?
I have not.
So that's basically what it is. You have a main goal, something to find. Tomb of Annihilation, exactly, you want to find. Was it Chult, or is it Chult the main starting area? You're supposed to find a city,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Chult's the island, or peninsula, never mind. Basically, you're supposed to find this ancient city that is somewhere in the jungle. And then there you go, that's like your main motif. So you like get yourself ready for a long journey, because there's like a big trading town you start in, or a port rather. Hire a guide and just go out into several directions. Wherever you go, you'll find something cool, something neat, treasures to upgrade yourself. You can sell to buy better gear, and many things that like give you hints as to where the thing you're trying to find is. And eventually, you get there and you lose because the actual Tomb of Annihilation is fucking hard. um, But something like that would be like a good way to incorporate an open world feeling of exploration and stories and goals, where you know you have to find something, whether it be information, several artifacts, a location, or a person, like in Tomb of Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then how you get there is up for the players to figure out. Um, and of course, what does help is like the tools to do so. Like in the main starting area in Tomb of Annihilation, there is hireable guides, and it's a trading town where you can get anything you need there, um, so that they are incentivized to like get the things they need to start traveling just effectively in a random direction. There's even like some leads, um, like hey, there's goblin camps over here. There's more wild, unexplored areas over here, so maybe it's over there. That can like let players explore and do stuff there.
Gotcha. So touching upon the first part of what you said, uh, what sort of campaign do you feel like is better to run and to the players as well, to play through a more story-driven campaign or a more sandbox campaign?
Well, the answer is there isn't a better one. Uh, a cop out answer, but it's just whatever is the one that the either players and or DM wants to play. Maybe there's concessions that need to be made, like one player wants to be more open world, but the DM really wants to run a specific story they want to tell, upon which point you know, they just agree because at the end of the day, D&D is still fun regardless of how it's being played. And as long as they agree on that, then it doesn't really matter. In terms of easier, it's just how it gets run. Like the more story focused probably shouldn't have these big open world areas because then it detracts from what you want to be the main focus of the campaign. And that's basically like, at the end of the day, I think it's always easier to just do the open world one because a story that can be interacted with a bunch of people is hard to plan for, or rather needs lots of planning and lots of improv and adaptability to make it work all the way through. So at the end of the day, it is just easier to just like have a mission, your party goes to do it, and like if they run into like a random thing on the way there, they'll solve that and continue on their mission or whatever. And then you just sort of build around what the party does. But I mean, none is worse than the other. They're both equally good and has their pros and cons, their eases and their difficulties. Because like balancing for the open world,
Oh yeah.
more open world games is very difficult.
It's kind of like the issue in like Pokemon, right? Scarlet Violet, where hey, it's open world. Okay, I'm gonna explore the icy mountains that are just up ahead. What do you mean they're level 40? No, stop! My level 5 Pokemon can't handle this!
Open world in air quotes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the Assassin's Creed open world where like areas are still level gated. Because like, you know, the enemies there are like so much higher level, then it's not really that open.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like one of the biggest issues with an open world is, and I do feel this like when I'm running Karael, I have certain areas set for certain creatures for people to experience it at certain levels. So let's say you go into like a dragon's lair, right? While exploring the world, and you're like level 3. As the DM, like, I have to do stuff that don't push you towards that area. And like, I think it does become more like, as we talked about, open world in air quotes, where it's like, you're not fighting a dragon at level 3. Well, you might, if you really want to. I'm not gonna hold you back. If, like, one of my players said, oh, like, let's say you're in the guild and you hear, oh, there's this dragon lair that, like, people recently either stumbled upon, found, or is found because the dragon is wreaking havoc onto the village below it, right? If someone in my level 3 party goes, oh, I want to go there, now it's kind of like, should I not have given that info? Of like the world being a living, breathing world, because you also want like people to feel like, hey, there are people stronger than me doing quests. They're all not just hunting goblins, right? And not just hunting like giant rats, or doing sewer quests like we were at level 1. And then it becomes up to the DM, I think, to be like, how do I stop that? Hi, Fufo.
Well, I think the way to do
it's
it is
hard
just
for
to,
open
like,
world.
not make your world that dangerous. Like, so basically what I'm trying to say is, if there's like an area, there probably shouldn't be an area with such high level monsters just like out and about that can be like so easily traversable by the players. Like, realistically speaking, that should like be nowhere near a city or like a country, because that's just like a no man's land of dead people because of how dangerous the monsters are.
Yeah. 100%.
But if it is just like a dragon in the mountain range, or like even the forest nearby the starting town can have like an apex predator, a king of the forest.
But the apex predator
That
has
could
to
be
like,
dangerous.
it could be dangerous, but it also should be dangerous to a lower level party and not like a high level party, so that the people in the town can also, have merchants coming in and out through that forest or around that forest where they aren't constantly in danger of death, right? And like there's
Well,
townspeople as well.
the thing about that is that if it's only like a single monster, you can just like avoid it. It just doesn't like it can't be everywhere in the forest.
True.
Like an experienced trader going to that sea will know like the routes where like you can circumvent that creature's territory or like know its paths or its like mating seasons or whatever to like try to bypass this. Whereas other people might not. Maybe like the shortcut that they might need to take is straight through the monster's territory, and need to blitz through that in order to like get to a certain place faster or something like that. Basically, what you do is you just make the big monster avoidable if they need to go through that area. If you really don't want to like kill your players, because for obvious reasons, just like the monster just doesn't show up, kind of thing. Or you can make it a part of the scene, because once again, fighting isn't everything. It's not every the solution to every encounter. I wouldn't even say it's like all encounters, because I would consider like puzzles encounters.
Oh, 100%.
But like if there is like a dragon whose den is in the mountains and you need to cross those mountains to get where you need to go, then the encounter is trying to sneak past that dragon. And that's like what the party should be trying to do. And at worst, they just run for it. like the dragon wakes up and it's like a chase scene where they have to try to get away. And then of course if they like do the thing where they try to walk up and fight it, then that's a dead party right there. But that should have been obvious.
Yeah.
So
I feel like my favorite kind of encounters as a player when I'm playing, right, are encounters where it's not combat viable. I have to find a way out of this situation, or like to a certain area, and okay, so this is kind of going back to my character Izart, right? He had like 2 encounters back to back where one of them, this dumbass, being me, myself, hi everyone, released an abyssal demon onto the material plane, doing some stupid shit in the ethereal realm, and now that demon's hunting him. And he had to get out of that realm and try to kind of make it out alive, which was like a really big thing, really big encounter, which was really fun, trying to find a way to survive that. And immediately after that, the way he got out was through a portal. He's a Horizon Walker. He takes a portal to the Feywilds. And I don't, like, for anyone who knows D&D, I don't think I have to describe how scary the Feywilds are. And then he had to find a way to get himself out of the Feywilds and back into, what's his name? Back into the material plane, which was a whole event.
I will say, it's not like I prefer circumventing combat in like lieu of it, like just non-combat encounters.
Mm-hmm.
For combat, I do prefer it, but I usually like it when there's some sort of underlying element with it, usually like with the terrain, or maybe there's a puzzle during the combat, or maybe it's just like a really interesting enemy that is needs a little bit more awareness to defeat, which is what I prefer, just because I do think combat should play a big part, because it's like what every class does, except for like dedicated spellcasters, or they could, but they also couldn't if they just depends on what spells they take.
Oh, 100%.
But it just needs to be interesting, because a dungeon crawl of like a whole bunch of goblins in different rooms is a bit of a slog, and that's when things get a little rough.
One of the biggest things I'd have to say is, like, for me as a DM, one of the things I've found the hardest to kind of balance is dungeons themselves, where I want to put in puzzles and like that's nice, great, everything's perfect, but I also want to put in combat encounters, but that's also kind of like scary in its own way. in terms of if I spam combat encounters to like, I don't know, skeletons and zombies and giant spiders and stuff like that back to back to back to back to back, and it's in a long campaign. This is in a long campaign, and you go into a dungeon. I don't think that dungeon is fun anymore, even for the character who built for the player who built their character to just do combat, right? Like the fighter who made their character specifically for combat situations. I feel like if I put them in like 3-4 combats back to back, it just gets boring. Not just for like the DM and the players, but also the entire session is just rolling dice and does it hit? It hits. Does it does this much damage? Blah blah blah. I love D&D and I love the combat. My biggest issue is long combats are boring. And I feel like to spice up combat, you need puzzles. Because if there's no puzzles in the combat, then the combat becomes just a bunch of dice being rolled and see if they hit. Because, once again, I think we talked about this in the last episode as well, but D&D has this big issue of attack of opportunity. And there are certain classes that can just do like 70 plus damage on an opportunity attack. Well, there was. I don't know how much paladins can still do that, but paladins used to do like insane damage on attack of opportunities because of smite. But
well, it depends on how they're getting attack of opportunity, because that's like attack of opportunity doesn't really have it that often unless like dire straits are happening or unless someone's taking the calculated risk.
Yeah, I feel like that's the issue. Like, moving your character being a calculated risk is fun if it happens like once or twice. But if I put the creature right next to you anytime you're trying to run away or trying to move to a different position, well, the creature gets an attack of opportunity and then it also gets to chase you again.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it makes it so you just can't run away forever because they always get an attack. Usually it's like positioning, like the people that the enemies are most likely to go next to, which is like the people in the front of the group are like the fighters and stuff, the people who want to be in the front. And then it becomes interesting because the people in the back, the spellcasters, the ranged characters, who, like, it does become like this not happening every time kind of situation because they position themselves in a way where it just is unlikely to happen. But then when they get ambushed or when somebody is able to slip through, they're able to, then this sort of thing happens where they run away and it's this whole game of positioning, which is interesting. Like I said, it wasn't happening every single time, but like if I'm in a campaign where I'm a spellcaster and every single encounter there was like teleporting people or like, ambushes where my guy was, in a bad position every single time, then I would not enjoy that campaign. Exactly. But I think it's fine as it is because, like,
I feel like
unless it's like that serious, it's not going to happen that often.
I feel like that melds down to encounter design, right? You have to design your encounters to make sense to the area that you're in, and then you have to balance it along the players' levels, and then you have to make sure that it's also fun, because let's be honest, we've all had that one encounter where you're going into a forest, you get attacked by goblins, there isn't really much going on, they've just surrounded you, and now it's just a bunch of dice being rolled to see how quickly you can take care of them.
Even then, I think it's fine, like, per session. Like, the issue happens when I think there's, like, it's like 4 fights back-to-back where it's just goblins.
Oh yeah.
Even if it is just, like, 1 goblin, maybe even 2, you can sort of take solace in, like, the catharsis of, like, having this fighter combat build, mowing down hordes of goblins. I think that's fun in its own right.
Also, for me, to your comment, I will say this. You don't have to imagine that too much. Just play with a couple new players and see what they do. Uh, not under...
Very interesting decisions.
Yeah, like, very interesting decisions, which is constantly, like, putting themselves in danger. I will say this, recently I've had a player not wanting to kill their character, but by golly, were all their decisions creative in a way where they're always in trouble. And no,
Like,
it's not the person you're thinking of.
Well, throughout this entire sort of discussion, all I can think about is the canyon fight for my one shot. I thought that would be more interesting, but some of the players didn't really get out of the difficult situation they were in and just sort of stood there and died, so it was a bit rough.
Yep. Oh, if a person is actively trying to do that to quote-unquote test the DM, I will...
They gotta make new characters, that's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. I will say this right now. They're either making a new character, or they're not going to be in my campaign for much longer, because I did not invite a person to a campaign to test me. I invited a person to a campaign to have fun and enjoy and discover a new world and play together, not to be tested. If someone's trying to test me, they can test themselves. Is basically how I'll word that.
Yep. Oh, we talked a lot about combat balance, which I guess sort of a bit of a sidetrack from the original conversation, which was about open worlds. I guess the final thing I do have to say about that, discussing like your open world problem, is that it doesn't need to be like as open world as I have these monsters here, and then, you could fight them, so don't go there, because, like, it could kill you kind of thing.
Yes.
It just does need to feel open world. Like, they just need to know that there is this dangerous thing in there, but, like, they can try to circumvent it, or, like, the DM, like, just knows that you're not going to throw that thing at them, because they would kill them instantly, or you will, and they'll have to run, and that's the encounter of that one. Like, it doesn't need to be, like, mechanically super open world. They can go whichever way they want, and then, they die because of it. So long as it feels open world, the campaign itself will feel believable. It will feel like a living world that is existing, and not just something made up by a bunch of people playing pretend.
100%. Honestly, as we're talking, I'm getting ideas for, like, the next session. And, like, how I can put stuff where, without... Okay, once again, this is kind of going back to something we've talked about a lot. I'm a DM who is kind of married to their ideas and married to their world building, and I'm getting ideas of how to kind of stay married to my world building while also it not being a drag to the story and, like, to the campaign itself. Also,
Yes.
If my character starts to jitter all over the place, it's because smoke is covering my camera at that moment because I am smoking hookah. For those who don't know, I do this while DMing and talking about D&D. I do not know why, but it also kind of opens up my brain to talk about and relax and create ideas. It makes no sense. I know, medically it makes no sense, but it's how it is.
For me, I jitter because I've spin around in my chair while I do this. So sometimes I'm just like literally facing a wall and not my camera, so the tracking is a little bit confused.
Hi Biz, thanks for the sub. I was playing with Biz right before we got into the call, so...
Oh yeah, I still... Biz's date.
Okay, so, something that I did want to talk about, because I feel like this happens in Adventures in Karael. how do you write a tragedy where the characters are all involved in the story and like they care? Like, this is not about how do I get the player to care, because we talked about that. It's if they care, they care. If they don't, they don't. You can't kind of force them into it, right? Um, but it's like, how do you write a tragedy into the world without depressing your players, without them feeling horrible, basically? Like, they still feel bad, but they don't feel like, oh, why are we here? I did not have a stressful week to play D&D and to unwind only to feel more stressed.
That's more of like a personal issue, like it just between person to person. I have a feeling I know what you're talking about just from what you've told me before, but like the things that bothered some people don't really bother me. So it's less of anything the DM can do and more of like what players can do. Like if something is too like tragic, they need to like disassociate with their characters a bit more, because it is just like a story being told at the end of the day. But that really is just like how tolerable. It's not exactly the right word, but you know what I mean. A player is to like these sorts of things. You know, if something's too sad for them, then it's just too sad for them. It's just all about understanding your players and making a game that everyone can enjoy. Like, I guess what the DM does in this session, in this instance, is don't run a story with tragedies if the party just wants some lighthearted fun.
Yeah,
is the answer to that one.
Also, kind of sidetracking off the podcast for a bit. Do you see what Formy wrote?
Of course.
Do you see this bish? Saying, I wish I could generate ideas. Wait. That, not like he's one of the most talented animators that I know. Yeah, that definitely not.
Yeah, where are they? Mr. Talented Artist over here.
For me vanished? Okay. Yeah, sure, buddy. Sure, buddy. So I think we talked about this. Well, we talked about this off stream. I kind of want to touch upon this on stream. I feel like one of the biggest issues I've had with Karael was the restriction of the divine, right? Of clerics and warlocks and their classes and how gods are kind of being kept away from the material plane. This is more of a rant than anything else. This is more for like anyone who's planning to create their own D&D setting. Don't do what I did, cause D&D, like, if you're making a D&D world and it is restrictive of classes, right? And if it's restrictive of certain ideas that D&D just runs off of, right? For like gods, for example, and like the planes of existence, and like how those other planes of existence interact with the material plane. When you limit it and you limit player creativity, it's just a mess waiting to happen.
All I'll say is top-down world building.
Yeah, exactly.
Go with the build thing, and then like fill out what the things the build thing, the big thing entails, and then fill in the blanks with relation to the big thing so that it all makes sense. I do think an issue with like that world building and for your world entirely is that you're a little bit too into like the standard D&D stuff, like the things you would find in the books. Like, if it's like difficult to incorporate like this world you're building alongside the various planes of the inner planes, yeah, Feywild, Shadowfell, Elemental, the whole shebang. Or if like you have difficulties with like the fact that resurrection magic exists and stuff like that, you can always just say no. Right, like this is your world, like that stuff doesn't doesn't exist here because it would like be too much of a headache to like write loops around in order to incorporate it in.
Yes, but also, as I said, it's a headache for the DM and the world builder because of the stuff that D&D itself allows, and you're creating a D&D setting, right? For example, we talked about this during the session. Bards get resurrection, while druids get true resurrection, which is supposed to be these are quote unquote divine-ish spells.
Things commonly used by a cleric, yes.
Yeah, in their nature, the spells themselves are more leaning towards the divine, so now you have to explain how the bards are even able to cast resurrection, druids cast true resurrection, and like how that works, why that's allowed. And like it makes sense if you create a cleric and it does that, but now in my setting you create a setting with which kind of restricts and kind of pushes the players away from creating clerics and warlocks, and now you're kind of facing the backlash of that, right? It's just a headache. Don't do it.
Kind of. I think you're getting some things confused. I think it is easy to explain why druids and bards can learn these spells. I think the issue is like because, and this is a bit more specific to your campaign setting and your campaign and the current mission, which is resurrecting a player. You're focusing it entirely on the quote-unquote canon mechanical ways to resurrect a player, which is getting someone who can cast these spells. It can be anything. The first time I did it was like a fucking fountain of youth or whatever, like a pool they were able to like travel to, find a portal to because it was in the Feywild, and they dipped their dead guy in it and they revived, and there you go. Like it could just be an artifact. It doesn't need to be explained by any sorts of magic. It can just do what you need it to do because you are the creator of your world, and you can create the magical happenstances or artifacts that inhabit it.
Yep. As I said, it's a
like for all intensive purposes, it's a freaking dagger that just has the resurrection spell in it, and you just stab it into a dead person, they come back alive, and that's it.
As I said, this is me going for mostly new world builders and new DMs, right? Me saying don't do it because if you don't have the experience to be able to explain it, and trust me, you can think you can explain it, but when you're hit with the face with it, it becomes a little bit more problematic at the moment. Just don't limit you. Limiting is an intriguing way to world build, but you're also limiting yourself and the stories you can tell, which is kind of like the whole quote-unquote issue, right? Also, hi, Braddock.
I mean, that's true, but I think you have it backwards. You're limiting yourself right now because you're trying to resurrect someone via the books and explaining it to it, trying to rationalize that in your world, or it's easier to just like do whatever you want and then explain it because it's how you want. Like I said before, it's just a dagger with a true resurrection spell in it. That's all. That's all you need to say.
I'm not.
That's all that matters.
Like I'm not. Without spoiling, I'm not trying to like. Your quest isn't finding someone, right? It's finding an area or something. That being said, I feel like I have to create how rare that is and how difficult the quote-unquote quest is based on like the level of the spell and like people who can cast it and how rare they are as an existence in general. Hi Peanuts, thanks for the lyrics, and like all of that, right? I feel like that's my main issue.
Once again, you are limiting yourself.
Yes, 100%.
You don't need to make it that rare. You don't need to make it that hard. You don't need to make it in relation to anything. It's your world. It can just be what you want.
True.
Like, it's not like this thing that was created by high-level wizard or druids and is safeguarded by them. It's like, in the past this was made by a high level bard or whatever, and it just got lost to time and is now just like a ruins or whatever, and that's the ruins are just like fucking low level zombies or some shit. But the reason like it was missing is because it was lost, or like people straight up forgot that this, like, it could be a knife in the possession of a nobleman, and no one can know it resurrects people because people just forgot. Like, it was just lost to time. Like, you don't need to be limiting yourself to like these, you know, oh, this spell can only be casted by a level X thing, thus it needs to be like scaled to that level X thing. Like, no, you're limiting yourself. That's the issue that we're trying to avoid. This is your world. You don't need to do that.
True. So that kind of leads to my next segment of this podcast, which was like artifacts of power, items that work in your world and in your world building, and like how strong should they be? What should be their impact onto this world, right? Should they be strong enough items that change the whole world? Because kind of like going back to the previous spot is resurrection, right? So how rare should a resurrection item be? Which, once again, we talked about it, it depends on the DM and the world, and it's totally up to them. But it's also like, how do you make them make sense in the world? It's kind of like my talking point.
Well, I'd either like shape the world around it, like if there was like a, I don't know, a terraforming artifact, then the world was probably shaped to be it, and like it was sort of like in character creation for the world, where how impactful that was. So what are you asking? Like, how important the item should be, or
yeah, like just when we think of artifacts, right? We're thinking of items of like the highest rarity and possibly the highest strength. That's what comes to my mind when we say artifact. The issue becomes, this is more of a question for like Karael, right? Because of the current state of Karael, how rare should they be, and like do people know it? If so, why hasn't anyone taken it already? What's the limiting factor? Why are they strong? If they're strong, like, do they have a historical presence in events that played? And if so, why doesn't anyone else already have ownership of it?
Well, there you go. As the DM, you're kind of supposed to answer these questions. As it stands, once again, top-down world building.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of solved as you build it. Like, you want like this powerful artifact to be a part of it. How did that affect everything else? Then, there you go. That's how it. You write that as you write the lore for the world. If it is just like sort of like a happenstance item, like something you just wanted to throw in a world that's already built, then you do just the easy routes. Not everyone knows about it, or it's so heavily safeguarded that no one can easily get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And just those two easy explanations that allow you to like throw whatever you want into the world. Like there's this like super, like the bad guy has this like fucking super weapon or whatever, and you need the thing to counteract it. Well, like if you're, you know, through the campaign, you're now working with like the king himself of the area. He can tell you like this ancient super weapon that can counteract it. But you need to find it. Blah blah blah. You know, it was a secret, and that's why no one's been using it. It's also like powered down or whatever, and you need to find out to power up, which is why they're not immediately able to use it. And blah blah. This is really hard to explain because all I can say is you probably should have thought about this kind of stuff before just slotting powerful items immediately into your world. And if you do, then you just take the easy route of it was lost knowledge or a forgotten artifact, or it's under tight security, so it can't be used regularly. There you go.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest issues when it comes to like world building is because I'm world building from the bottom up. Even though like I have this big event that happened which shaped the entire world, which is where I'm running it from. So that's kind of like the top. I went top to bottom, and then I built the bottom up so much without touching the top ever again, or like the medium parts, which is the entire issue I'm having with my world building right now. That's something.
Well, if I were to give a critique, I think it's like a bit too big. When you're building an entire world, when the campaign only takes place in like only small sections of it at a time.
Yes. Which, okay, so my editor is working on this video as we speak. I know they are, because, well, right now they aren't, but they were today. I know they aren't doing it right now because they're playing Business Tour right now with Biz. Biz.
Hi, Biz.
Heck you, Biz. I need my editor to be editing Biz. Anyway, back to the mines. Back to the mines with you. Anyway, I talked about this in the upcoming video as well, which is for the summer campaign that's coming up, right? I didn't focus because it's set in the future of Karael, well, future to where we played before. I've only built out that one city right now and the events going on in the world, but not the world itself. I haven't touched upon what any other city looks like. I haven't touched upon what the impacts of what's happening right now on any other city. I've just focused on that city right now, which I feel like is the quote-unquote optimal way in terms of I have this big thing, which is kind of like the top happening. And then from there, I just built a city. I didn't focus on, okay, what are the effects of this big thing happening all around the world? So starting from like small to big is how I'm going to go with that campaign. I honestly haven't written anything besides the city yet. And I feel like that's optimal.
It's good / easier DMing to put your main focus on the things that the players themselves will experience. There's some things you keep in like your mind, like some like countries that are like on the borders of wherever the like the main place takes place in, but like flushing out said areas is a bit of just extra unnecessary work, especially if like you're being rigid in what you flesh out in those areas, because once again, what the players do may change everything. So
100%. Also for me, I don't think that's a bad thing, because like, for example, right, Critical Role, everything is set in the world of Tal'Dorei, in the world where Tal'Dorei is. Wildmount is in the same world. Campaign 3 and where that happened is in the same world. There were mentions of it before, but they never explored it, which is why they're able to explore it in future campaigns. So I don't think it's bad at all, honestly. I think that's probably the best way to do it, or at least a successful way that we've seen it being done.
But, and this is just for that, it also wasn't fully built during like the first.
Oh yeah, there were just mentions.
Critical Role.
100%, there were mentions. Like,
which is kind of the issue here, is that Elf built an entire world
before
and
even
then
a session.
Only, only like a small part of it is where it takes place in.
Yep. So it's the issue of the world's ready, and I know where everything is, and I know what the political stances of every country is towards one another. And like the players have never even stepped out of the main city yet, or even if they did, it was a small village. So as we talked about, going small and from that small slowly expanding the world is much better than making the entire world at once. And honestly, in the terms of Karael, keeping a lot of it empty and like not fleshed out is the issue, because only the basics of Karael has been kind of written, and I feel like if I spent the entire time instead focusing on just the Gorzen Kingdom alone, which, let's be honest, it's big enough to run a full campaign on, right? And just mention the neighboring countries and perhaps have some NPCs from those neighboring countries, it'd be much better than have like the entire world map in front of me go, okay, Gorza is here, next to it is the Pixian Empire, next to it is the Kilsovian Empire, okay, so this is happening in the Kilsovian Empire, this is happening in the Pixian Empire, this is happening in the Gorzen Kingdom, this is happening in some other city or country next to it. And having all of these mesh in at once while also not impacting anything at all. Right? It doesn't impact the story, it doesn't impact the player choices, they just know they're there. And you could have just let them know that those places existed by drafting the world, but not having everything said all at once. And having the settings be kind of generic, too general, for it to even matter too much. But yeah, that's the entire issue with Karael right now, which I'm trying to fix, per se. Trying to... How do I say this? Trying to make the places that the players are exploring more fleshed out at the moments, rather than focusing on, oh, okay, so this is happening in the Pixian Empire. This is the Gorzen Kingdom's reaction to it, and the players heard about it. Okay, that's great. Who cares, right? Yeah, as Kit said, top-down world building and going from small to big is probably the best way to start building your world.
It's just easiest.
Yeah.
It's also like building your world in air quotes. The thing about the quote-unquote world building is how much the players will interact with that stuff, or how likely they are, which is why like focus like things on other countries or other like towns, even in like the main country that like the players just won't visit for quite a long time, don't need to be fleshed out.
Yeah.
Just yet. So you should focus on the things that the players will interact with or will be most likely to interact with. And then you can always just like do that later as it expands. But like with Alf's kind of thing, it's like there's a lot of holes that have left to be filled because it's very widespread. So
Yes.
it tends to come up sometimes during sessions.
Which, as I talked about, if I focused on that certain area and filling out those holes, rather than creating a lot but leaving a lot of holes, it'd just be better.
I do have a question.
Yes.
And this one's for everybody. This one's for chat as well, if you would like to answer. Though I don't know who here is like as into TTRPGs as me and or Alf, but I always like to ask questions for everybody because it's fun to know what people's preferences are. Last time I asked about people's favorite classes, or like playstyles and slash builds slash whatever. Sort of going on that with like character creation, what is like your sort of favorite, I wouldn't say archetype, but like character traits, or like habits, or like something you gravitate towards when making a character, kind of RP-wise. For me, it is like veteran characters, like not exactly like the grizzled war vet every single time, but like the has combat experience prior to joining up with like the party kind of characters who have seen like battles before and stuff like that. That's usually what I end up gravitating towards, because I do like playing characters that are well trained in various or maybe one specific weapon. That tends to be my like go-to. If Kit makes a character, that's that's probably what the character is going to be. A war vet or mercenary or something of the sort.
For me, I like making more how do I mention this? Just a naive character to the world. As naive as I am, right? Doesn't know too much, doesn't know the inner workings of anything. Just a basic commoner that lives there. Ideally, I like making my characters orphans or urchins. So that, like, my family isn't really tied into the story, and, like, I can kind of experience the found family trope more than the normal familial issues that a normal person would have.
Yeah. Yeah, the sort of naive to the world kind of character is good too for for like really pulling along the DM story they're trying to tell, because if they're naturally curious about the things, then the story helps like write itself, the hooks write themselves.
Braddock says,
Also, Braddock, hell yeah.
Usually characters that are straightforward, go straight to the point when talking, and that usually goes straight to bonking when the time for it comes.
If they're here for business, not for a chat.
Yeah, they're here to bonk, not make friends.
I do think it's funny. There's a lot of good characters like this, but they're like just like the regular characters. But I always think of good old Jack Garland. The character is so focused on one goal that it's like it's a joke. Like it's played for comedy because he's surrounded by other people that are trying to like have monologues or like have these various character traits. He's like, shut up, I'm only here for one thing.
I was reading a manga. Let me see if I can find it real quick. What was it? Asura Scans. Asura Scan Nation. So, something I read and saw recently, which made me laugh my ass off, by the way. Where is this? So a story that was on a hiatus came back. Where's Asher Scans? There we go. Where is it? Champion's Path to Miram. I like, as you know, I like Miram stories a lot. So there was this evil guy giving a whole monologue to the main character, and the main character just went, "Why are you talking?" and just slapped the ever-living shit out of them. And I was like, yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, like, this guy came to fight me, is talking about how he's gonna kill me. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna slap a motherfucker, that's what I'm gonna do.
Run up and punch them.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck who you are.
Like, why are you talking? We came here to fight, sort of thing. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Straightforward characters are good. They're good when they have other like not straightforward characters to bounce off of, because it grounds things when things get too crazy, but also like it becomes funny in their own right when everybody else is like reacting in a certain way and they're just like cool with it because they're like focused on the goal.
Yep, basically.
Also goes into like character alignments. Like, if there's, like, the village being ransacked, will the straightforward person, like, stop to help, or are they focused on their own goal?
Yeah, are they focused on whatever quest they're on right now more? Do they want to help? And
Yeah, like, is their goal more of just like a morality thing, or is like it really is the goal?
Yep.
Like Jack Garland, if it's not about chaos, then he doesn't care.
Yep. One of my biggest things is, which kind of comes from the campaigns I've played, is helping this village or these people the right thing to do in the first place. Like, why are they being attacked? What did they do beforehand that caused them to... Like, are the people attacking just pure evil and just attacking for the sake of attacking and looting? Or is there a whole backstory behind it? And if I go to save them, am I causing more problems than I am solving? Situation.
Yeah, like, are the spirits invading the realm of the living just to do it, or is it because the Emperor secretly trapped the Spirit King's daughter in a plate to gain immortality?
Yep, exactly. Or even,
Shout as if everyone knows what I'm exactly referencing.
or even like something simpler. You see quote-unquote bandits attacking a village, but the bandits are attacking with farm tools.
Yeah.
Now, are they bandits? Are they from another village? What is this fight even about?
Are they bandits for the love of it, or is it because of unfortunate circumstance, you know? Can you help the bandits and then in turn that'll stop them from pillaging the village?
Yep. Oh, also, one of the things I prefer when I'm playing, right? If I'm attacking someone and I'm using a short sword and I'm using a bow and arrow, I know it's something that exists in D&D where you can say, oh, I'm attacking them non-lethally. And in my head, I'm going, that's fucking bullshit. I'm stabbing them with a sword. How are we doing this non-lethally? And yes, you can RP away where you explain, you're like, oh, I'm hitting them with the back of my sword. Well, now we gotta roll different damage dice, because I can't have you roll short sword damage. I have to have you roll like a d4 for like the pommel. Or like maybe just a pure strength roll, right? Just take your strength modifier as the damage itself. This is kind of... I know, like, people don't agree with this. But, like, if I'm attacking you with a martial weapon, I'm sorry, I'm expecting you to die. There's...
Well,
like,
the thing about that is, if you have, like, proficiency with it, like, if you're trained in that weapon, there's plenty of places you can stab that won't kill somebody. They'll just
oh, for sure.
pass out.
For sure, but, like...
bleed out, and then you just bandage them up and tie them up while they're passed out.
Like, how much are you thinking about that in the middle of a fight? Is also... like, how much is my character thinking about that? Like, am I
Well, if
thinking
I'm
of...
trying to, like, non-lethal them because I need to capture them, then throughout the entire fight, yes.
Yeah, for like, if it's a capture quest, then I know, like, that's what I'm attempting to do, for sure. But, like, going back to the previous situation of bandits attacking a village, and I'm trying to take down the bandits, I don't think at that point my character is going, oh, let me take them into question, though.
Well, yeah, if your character doesn't care about that, then yeah, kill them. But if the character does, then yeah, they're gonna strike non-lethally because they want to not kill them.
Yeah. I guess it's more because of the characters I played, where... like, Izart was a full-on maniac.
If your character isn't going to spare them or, like, ask questions and they're just going to kill them in the moment, then do that. Because that's what the character would do.
So Izart
I don't feel like there's
the
an
most
issue with, like, the rules of how
smart.
non-lethal works.
Izart wasn't the most smart person, right? He also wasn't someone that was, like, as busy saying, blood for the blood god. No, he wasn't like that. He was more on
Skulls for the Skull Throne.
Yeah, he was more on the lines of... how do I say this? He became a crazy person. Like, he killed a devil once, right? A one-horned devil. Or a demon. I don't remember at this point. And he was carrying out around the head that he chopped off as trophy. And when the guards came to question him, he was so far gone into lunacy that he said, "Oh yeah, this is a unicorn head. Don't you
Sure.
do you not see the horn that I'm holding? This is clearly a unicorn."
Whatever makes sense.
Yeah, it did not make sense. He was just crazy.
Obviously, it's a rhinoceros.
Though I will say I appreciate my DM for kind of like playing along with me. Also, for example, I was playing with Biz, right? We're in a Warhammer campaign. The fantasy world, I forget what it's called.
Age of Sigmar, or like
Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
And we're playing D&D, but like in Age of Sigmar, with like D&D rules, and I'm playing an Ilrigger, right? And he is right there.
Sorry, Seiko, you're a little too early for that. Hold on for like another
a couple thousand years,
millennium, right?
Well, no, even then, like right now, it is still for the Emperor. It's just not the entire world is for the Emperor. We are in like the human realm, the human country where it is for the Emperor.
Like a emperor, but like
yeah,
the emperor doesn't exist until after Age of Sigmar, like way after.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like so, their city, the city that they're in, has accepted some goblins, which are living in the outer parts of the city.
Fucking goblin these nuts, dude. Sorry, continue.
And then, like right now, the farmers in the city are not being well paid and stuff like that. And by the way, the character's name is Isha. And Isha is a part of the church, and he is the church's librarian. He just got in. And he's talking to these civilians, getting pissed off that like the nobles aren't helping them out. He talks to the head priest of the church. He goes, "Can we not talk with the nobles? Do they not listen to you?" And they're like, "No, they don't. They're not listening to me. I have been talking to them for weeks. For weeks I've been talking to them, and they haven't been listening to me." So Isha just went, "Well, I'm gonna take matters into my own hands," and goes to burn down the goblin part of the village. I think all the characters I play are at their core either neutral evil or chaotic neutral, and I don't know which.
Chaotic.
Probably, right?
Neutral still has like a goal.
Yeah.
If it's just like the easiest solution is the thing that kills everybody, that's chaotic.
No, it's not okay. So his idea is this might not be the easiest way we can get this done and the safest way we can get this done. But if I burn down the entire goblin part and cause chaos, now they actually have to look into this shit. Which is what ended up happening. And I will say this, my cousin is also playing with me, Biz, and Umut. And they're both amazing role players, Biz and my cousin. And my cousin took that thread almost instantly. This is a monk that is in the church that is trying to become a priest, by the way, and went. He saw everything that was happening, and he was talking to like the city guards because they found my almost dead body. By the way, I almost died trying to burn down that goblin place. He found me with some guards, got me back to the guard place. They're questioning why I was even with the goblins in the first place, blah, blah, blah. At some point, the head guard was questioning, is the church aligning with the goblins? And then my character was a merchant before entering the church, and I got, like, there were questions of, was he selling drugs to the goblins? Did the church take in someone like that? And he was like, "Oh, we're causing chaos with this now." And he fully ran with it. And I'm pretty sure we started a war between the church and the city that we don't know just yet. it's also making me question, is he evil? Now, the thing is, me and him, IRL, I like to think we're chaotic evil. If we're looking at alignments alone, right? And I feel like that leaks a lot into the characters we play, no matter what. Where they're either chaotic or evil, but most certainly chaotic.
Yeah, well, alignment's always is like in relation to the world, so it's whatever. Alignment doesn't matter anyways.
True, alignment is only important for spells that matter. That take
I don't even
alignments
think
into
that
account.
exists in D&D.
I think they do.
Exists in Pathfinder, I know that. Because there's some funny spells that, like, clerics know that deal extra damage to, like, things of certain alignments.
I do think there are spells that take alignments into account. I just don't know which ones. Because I remember...
Maybe full.
I'll have to look into it again. We can talk about this later. But yeah, so where I was leading with the story is... Like... As a DM, right? You never plan for any of this. And like Umut was telling us, he didn't plan for any of this at all.
Of course not.
Right? And like, he was like, I didn't even know what half of the shit you were gonna do. I have to write so much because of it. And it's like that at the end of every session where he just comes up to me and he's like last session, he was like, I had no idea how this was gonna happen. And I literally stood up, shook his hand, and I was like, hi, you missed having me as a player, didn't you? And he started laughing instantly. I feel like that's something I need to learn as well as a DM, is moving the flow according to the chaoticness and like the decisions that your players make. Because he's amazing at it. From what I've seen from like the one-shots, you're good at it as well.
I don't think so, but sure.
Well, I know so, well, at least from what I've seen. As I said, it's from what I've seen. But I feel like I'm a bit lacking in that aspect. And like, how do you even practice that? How do you try to become good at getting the flow of the story to align with what the players are doing?
Just be good at adapting and improv, I guess, is how it is. I don't know how one would practice it, but I guess it's like the mindset of think about what the players like want to an extent, and just go with that. Like, forget what you want to happen or what you're expecting to happen. Just make what the players want to do happen, and then do that. And if it's like so big, you have to end the session and be like, all right, I need time to think, then that's fine. Sometimes it'd be like that. But I think it's just like the mindset of like working with like, because the players want something so out of left field, you just ignore everything you plan and just try to like quickly stitch together something that works with what your players are trying to do. That kind of thing. And then I guess eventually if you just do it enough, you'll get better. Who knows?
Gotcha. Ooh, big question. For a non-sci-fi campaign, right? How do you make this fantastical technology, riddled with the arcane, feel natural to the world? How do you make it feel like it's existed and like everyone there knows of it and like people use it and like the players aren't fully caught off guard by this fantastical technology and how it works?
If it's something so common, you'd usually like explain it within the sort of descriptions of like the opening city or whatnot, like the main city, where like there would be like these poles with crystals on them, and like during the night they would light up because they're basically streetlights.
Yeah.
Things like that. Um, you would see like there is a fish market or a fish seller in the market, and he has a box with cooling magics in it, and you could tell like I wouldn't say refrigerator, but like a cooler at least, where like the fish stay fresh. So you just incorporate it to the everyday lives of the NPCs, not even like NPCs, but like the set dressing characters, honestly, because like they're not going to talk to most of these guys. Makes it shown to the player that this is in fact the norm for how it works, and that's how you just introduce magical technologies in the lives of the common people.
Gotcha. Okay. Also, if I'm taking like big S breaks, just know I'm smoking in the meanwhile. It's not.
I mean, I know it's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I'm also like letting chat know.
Oh yeah, this guy's getting crunk. Don't worry about it, chat.
Ooh. Okay, so I don't know if this is possible. You can just say, hey, this is not possible, by the way. How do you build tension in a story without railroading it? Also, hi, PT. Is there a way to, like, add tension to a story, an ongoing story, without it feel like it's railroady or it's exposition-y, for example?
Well, oh, I was gonna say, I think I still need it. Describe tension. Like, what do you mean? Like stakes or what?
Yeah, like, one of the biggest examples I can give is kind of like the Lich looking to end the world, right? Kind of like a world on the brink sort of situation. How do you implement that into a world where it doesn't feel like the characters got railroaded into the story? Is it possible?
Well, yes. It all depends on like the timing of it. Like, basically, if they've been working themselves up and like they've encountered some remnants of the Lich or like something about it,
Mm-hmm.
And they're now powerful, and then when the Lich says he wants to destroy the world, I think that's tension for the players to want to try and stop it. Of course, DM has to read the room if that's what the players are interested in, but for the most part, that's probably going to be it, considering how everything's gone so far. The main issue is if it's like the first thing, like, it feels railroaded when they have like really no connection to this Lich saying he'll end the world, and then it's like on the players to try and stop it. Then there's like no tension, because like, why us? Are we capable of doing it? How do we do it, kind of thing. But once like there's like, because the story has progressed, there is a reason for them to do it. They would know how to do it, or at least somewhat strong enough to like try. Then there is the tension when the Lich declares to destroy the world, that the players will need to try and stop him. Because I guess it's like too much tension if like the players, it's just like out of left field for the players. Like, we can't stop that. Get higher level people to do that. We don't know that guy.
Yep. Okay. Noted. So, one of the biggest things I was thinking of, like, a Lich is an arcane caster, right? So, have like the players meet this caster, talk to them, have the caster be kind of weird, and like perhaps have them be like really kind-hearted, be a really kind-hearted person, and then from there, have something big in the story happen to them that kind of turns them darker. But like when I'm describing it, I feel like with the way I write it, it feels kind of railroady. Like the entire story was kind of.
I mean, yeah, I guess it depends on how much you interact with them. It could be an extra bit of tension if they knew him too much, but if there was like build up to them turning into a Lich, because I think I get the story. Like, the story's interesting because it's just a quirky wizard. that you interact with. Like this could be like the Archmage of the region, and like the players meet him because he needs to solve something with like some super magic or whatever. But then as you meet him, he's like trying to get more and more powerful. Maybe there's like this dark artifact he's taking an interest in. It's like not too out of left field because like he's done research on this stuff before. Like he's the guy to research the stuff on it. But then they see the turn, and then he becomes an evil lich or whatever. Theoretically, it also could just be like the lich already existed, but is like in stasis or like dead or trapped in the simulacrum or however you want to run your lich.
And like a cultist trying to revive them, sort of situation.
Exactly. They never like meet this lich, but like they meet the henchmen, they meet the cult, the people trying to revive them. And then the tension rises now that the lich has risen and is threatening to destroy the world.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's a ton of ways to run it, and it all just depends on the vibes of the party. Like, if the quirky wizard they've been talking to this entire time, if the heal chain is too sudden, would that feel railroady kind of thing? Or do you think there's reason enough? Or like, is there infighting in the party? Like, does the party think like, we don't trust this guy with the dark artifact? Or does some of them be like, I trust him, he was like my teacher or whatever, and he's dealt with loads of cursed items and blah blah blah. That kind of thing.
Gotcha. I think I'm honestly the Worldbuilders Lantern is kind of more helpful to me than anything else, right?
I know what this is. This is just advice for you.
Yeah, the Worldbuilders Lantern is just a podcast of seeing me slowly understand and become a better DM, slowly but surely, hopefully.
Well, that's just how I do things. I'm a more player first kind of DM, because like I have stories I want to tell, but if the players aren't interested in it, then it's just not a good game. So it's all about the ebb and flow of tailoring your story to your players, which is like most of the things you ask of like how to like correctly like inspire the players, have them feel tension, have them feel blank. It's all about ascertaining the vibes of the group, and then you just work from there. Like I'd say your DM for your 40k ascertained the vibes of the group of being particularly chaotic and just went with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Ooh. So we were talking about how to keep stories individualistic before we started the podcast, right? And like having stories not intertwine with each other too much, have it not intertwine.
Just try to like force like backstory connections or like connections to the main plots, because you can kind of feel when it's like that.
So something that this is kind of like a question for anyone who's ever DM'd as well. How do you dissect a backstory where you find kind of like hidden story hooks that you can add to perhaps the session, or like a resting session or a vacation session, right? For example, where the party's going somewhere else. How do you?
By the way, I use the term vacation arc for D&D. That's definitely not standard.
No, I took it off you.
Be careful when saying that, because I don't know if anybody else will get what I say when I mean that.
But yeah, how do you find those hidden backstory story hooks, basically?
While chat thinks about this, I actually do need to use the restroom really quick. So give me just 1 second.
So, let me give an example to chat, right? Let's say your character's an orphan raised in this big city, part of the Adventurers Guild. The orphanage is struggling with money. And that's the reason they're an adventurer in the first place, to help out the orphanage, get some money from those adventures. What sort of hidden story hook can you find in that backstory to kind of spice up the story, the current events that are happening a bit more? Do you perhaps touch upon the characters in the orphanage, like the person who runs the orphanage, some of the other orphans, for example, right? Or do you perhaps take more of a look at the person who loaned money to the orphanage that now the orphanage is kind of like in debt or something? How could you run that, I wonder? Where it could spice up the story. Would you find someone related to the debtor? Or would it be one of the orphans in the orphanage being in trouble because they were trying to get money but did something illegal, and now you have to kind of help them out? I wonder if the concept I gave is a bit too wide and there's too many ways to run it too. That's something I have to think about, honestly. Ooh, okay. While Kid is not here, so far we've been having streams every Sunday. This is gonna continue, right? But the Worldbuilders Lantern isn't going anywhere, but I will try to like stream more stuff. Oh, Kit's back. Hi, Kit.
Hello, what did I miss? Sorry.
So I was kind of like, I gave an example, right? Let's say your character's an orphan in an orphanage, and the orphanage is struggling with debts at the current moments. What part of the backstory do you take for a nice little story hook? Do you perhaps touch more upon the debtor who gave the money to the orphanage? Do you perhaps touch more upon the, like, an orphan in the orphanage, or the person running the orphanage in the first place? What makes it more intriguing at that moment? I guess it kind of depends on how the campaign has been going and how you interact with it before. So I will say this is the first time you're interacting with that part of the backstory. What would be the best way of going about
it? It depends on the player. Because if the whole orphanage thing is just like a thing that happened to them that they don't think about anymore, then like there's not a real reason to bring this back in, or bring the orphanage back into things. If it's the kind of thing where the adventurer, the character is like constantly sending money back to the orphanage, then you play into that to hook them into other quest lines. With like, you know, the simple hook of gold and treasure.
Yep.
That's sort of how you interact with it, to get them interested in things. And of course there's diversions, like will they not do something because there's no gold involved, or were they inclined to do something a little bit more against the party's morality because they needed the more money. And then RP-wise for that player, it would be like, are they more greedy because they want more money so they can send more back and still not be poor? Or are they like constantly poor below the standard gold value of the rest of the party, since they're like sending half their gold over to somebody else? Which is like just self-imposed limitations, which is a fun thing to do.
Yep.
But that you interact with it with how the player wants it to be interacted with it. Because if like they don't care about it, and then you bring in like, oh, I was the person who funded the orphanage, blah blah blah, then it like, you know, it feels like out of left field, and the player kind of doesn't care super much about it. Oh, that stuff can come in if like they're like trying to defend the orphanage. Like if it comes up in conversation a lot, even if they're not trying to like send the gold back to it, like, which is like a more mechanical thing, I guess. Like they want to go visit it, or I don't know, they just like say stories about it a lot to the other party members. Then like you can go into like maybe the person who funded the orphanage has more sinister intentions and is like training some of the orphans to be assassins or whatever.
Gotcha. Another thing I was touching upon was like, we're doing the Worldbuilders Lantern every Sunday. That's not going away anytime soon. Uh, this is something that I think you'd also be interested in. Is I'm okay. So this is kind of going away from D&D for a bit. Rush duels. Oh my god, I love rush duels for Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yep, rush duels are fun. I really love rush duels.
I
Only
like,
there was a better way to play it.
right? I love rush duels much more than I love normal D&D. Normal Yu-Gi-Oh. I love D&D above everything else. That being, I wish Master Duel had like a rush duel section. And I didn't have
Everyone
to,
thinks that.
and I didn't have to like play rush duels on Duel Links.
Everyone thinks that.
But let's
Like,
be
you're not
honest.
alone. Rush Duels is super popular, and there's so many people who want to play it
In the West, but
are
don't,
unable
but
to
can't.
because it's a Japanese-only game.
Yes, and I hate that. I genuinely hate that.
Yeah.
But like the big thing I was gonna touch upon is I'm probably gonna start streaming Rush Duels. I hate that it's only on Duel Links. I wish there was more ways I could play Rush Duels with like friends and stuff. But I have every Rush Duel card in Duel Links, so I'm gonna start playing it more. I'm gonna try out different decks. Right now I'm climbing with worms, and they're really fun. Also, I will say this: Rush Duel, in terms of card design, they hit hard. Like, they're so good. Like, to the point where I wish normal Yu-Gi-Oh cards were kind of as designed and as thematic and as good as that. I don't think they are. It may be a hot take, but I don't think the current
It's what you think.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards
Or, like,
are.
what you mean by, like, design.
So, what I mean is, like, the Constructor Worms is like a whole archetype, right? And it's from the anime. And I feel like they hit a certain niche where it's like really good. And I feel like the biggest thing I love about Rush Duels is that it's more archetype focused, but the archetypes aren't, oh, I searched this certain thing from my archetype 900 fucking times until I build a full board.
Well, it's like design stuff. I don't know. The reason why Rush Duel is that is because how I describe it is Rush Duels is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Except it is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of the rules.
Yes.
And that's how it works. Like, it's the same combo gameplay, but the thing about modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is it's like that, not because the rules are like that, but because the cards are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Rush Duel, it's the same feeling, except it's just in the rules. You know, you can summon as many times as you want,
Yep.
and you draw 5 cards a turn, or up to.
Rush Duel,
Whereas in regular Yu-Gi-Oh, you do have to do all the searching, and you know,
Rush
cards
Duels
that have
looked
to
at
special summon
Yu-Gi-Oh!
themselves.
They looked at modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And they went, okay, but what if we made this, but simpler and more fun? Where you don't have to do a certain combo to get a full board. And I really appreciate that. The one thing I love about Yu-Gi-Oh! More than any other card game is I get to spam out cards without having to worry about mana or resources. And that's the one thing I really love about Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot. And Rush Duel, I feel like, it's playground Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's amazing. And I love it.
Yeah. I guess that would be like my one issue with Rush Duel is that the reason why I like Yu-Gi-Oh! Over every other card game is that the cards dictate everything so much that like there's really fun stuff you can do with it. Like, I love Melfi's because of the design of how those cards work. Like, the themings of how it works is so interesting. And there's pretty much every archetype has this theming to it. Because that's what makes them different, and they all have this weird mechanic that is like, you know, defines how they play. Or in something like Magic the Gathering, it is just like standard stuff, you know, value, keywords and stuff like that. Where it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you know, no other cards do what Melfi's do, no other cards do what Madolches do, and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Whereas, true, Milfy Mommy is the reason I played Melfi's in the first place, because that's a hell of a name for the card. It's a shame that card is like unplayably bad, but it's still in my decks just because you never know the one time it might be useful.
The one niche where it's gonna be good. I swear it's gonna be good in that one certain moment.
Hell yeah. If you have 4 monsters on field, it can reflect battle damage and then turn into Zeus. You just need to somehow do that in Melfi's. Anyways, whereas Rush Duels, things are formatted way better and the rules are way better, but because of that, there's like less of a like interesting card game mechanics. I still enjoy it because I got into Yu-Gi-Oh because of the interesting stuff that all the cards are able to do. But I do enjoy like the gameplay, and then of course Rush is just that.
Oh yeah.
But
okay, so,
better like actually it's in the rules
Yep.
instead of just being inferred.
a tiny little counterpoint to that where I'm gonna shoot back is I feel like Rush Duels specifically, it's not like that right now, which makes me kind of sad with the Gaia archetype, but they made decks really archetype specific, which I really like, right? And there are less generic big boss options. Something I call the Baron effect. It just doesn't exist in Rush Duels, in my opinion, right? Your boss monster 99% of the time is an archetypal monster. And it's not Baron. It's not Borreload, right? Even Borreload's too archetypal. It's not it's not Goddess of the Underworld or something. I forget the name. You guys know what card I'm talking about. I feel like Rush Duels hit that specific niche really well.
My counter to that is that it's speed ran that. Like it's archetypes now, but for like the majority of a Rush Duel's lifespan, it was like, how do I get out Dragios? And you would just play decks centered around like the biggest guy you contribute summon.
Yes, 100%.
It wasn't until like Max and or Fusions, I forget which one came first.
I think it's Max. Max
where
came
things...
first. Fusions were
Yeah.
in the second anime. Max came way before Fusions. Yeah. Which
wasn't really until that where like you had sort of boss monsters you work towards as an archetype. Because before that, at most, it would just be
how do I get Dragios? How do I get
like
Seven
if it wasn't like specifically Dragios or any of his iterations, it was like something that works like specifically with your type. Like if you're doing like zombies, where it's like, oh well, this guy's like something that gets bigger for zombies and graves, so you're gonna play him in the zombie deck. And even then, you still probably just play Dragios too.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the very early Rush Duels though, where it was more beatdown centric, I'd say.
Yeah, basically, they needed to get through all the stuff, and then, like, they needed to be at a point where archetypes existed for archetypes to like become a thing.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I think I speak for both of us when I say this. Galaxy fucking rocks.
Love Galaxy, although I specifically do like the trans Galaxy stuff better, like because Galaxy is just like a type.
Yeah.
It's similar to Cybers, where like there's kind of just like this one way to play it.
Yeah, 100%.
For the most part, but there's still like some different archetypes.
Well,
I like the fusions,
Galaxy,
but I do know a lot of people like Dragon Beatdown.
Oh yeah, in Galaxy, I think right now there's 2 separate archetypes, which is like Dark Galaxy and Light Galaxy. I don't think Transams have truly
They haven't. I took a look when you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Which I'm really excited for, by the way. Okay, I was looking up some of the Rush Duel cards, and oh my god, they need to bring them real quick. But also, they brought some cards that I didn't see before, which makes me real like the Pyro support and...
Oh yeah, the Pyros are fun.
Yeah, like, and honestly, Worms became good. One small thing I'm gonna touch upon that I really dislike is they moved away from maximum summons a bit. And maximums are cool, man. Just bring them back. Like,
they will. I mean, well, Duel Links is Duel Links. So I don't know when, but like, there's so many archetypes that aren't out yet that like are focused solely on max modes. Like Abyss Kites were the ones that I used, and I don't think those exist yet.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
With that, this is gonna be kind of weird where I'm cutting it off on a Yu-Gi-Oh thing rather than a D&D thing, but that's gonna be it for today's podcast, mainly because I have work and I need to go to work.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I don't want to keep you.
I have to go to work in like 2 hours, but like getting ready, breakfast, the whole shtick is probably gonna take an hour anyway. And then it's like a 20-minute walk and like a 5-minute car drive. I live close, but still, it's getting ready. Mostly is me getting ready mentally to take another day at the hospital rather than me getting ready physically. But with that, everyone, thank you so much for dropping by. I'm gonna send you all over to Zingy, who is going to be a player in our summer campaign with me, Sean, and Kit, and Evan, and hopefully Ella. We'll see. And yeah, I want you all to meet Zingy and say hi to Zingy for me. With that, the outro. Yes. No, this is the opening. I want the outro. Where's the outro? Come on. There we go. And so the lantern dims, but the spark it lit will keep burning. Thank you for joining us around the fire, travelers. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep building, and let your world shine brighter than ever. We'll see you beneath the lantern's light. And hopefully, more D&D talk than Yu-Gi-Oh, but I get sidetracked because I love them both. Bye everyone, take care.
Goodbye.